Perle by the Gawain poet, translated by George Coulton. Pearl, pleasant to princes pay, so daintily dight in gold so clear, from Orient lands I hardily say was never seen a gem her peer. So round, so comely every way, so small, so smooth her siders were, wherever I judged of gems so gay, I set her single and singular. Alas, in an arbour I lost my dear. She slid through the grass into earth away. Now pine I despoiled of love's sweet cheer, of that spotless pearl that was mine one day. Since in that spot from me she sprang, oft have I waited there, wanting my weal, that once was wont to soothe all wrong, and to lighten my lot, and to bring me heal. Now pierceth my heart the bitter pang, swelleth my breast with the sorrow I feel. Yet never methinks was so sweet a song as in that still hour to my soul doth steal. But alas! for my sense must stagger and reel to think of her comeliness clad in clay. O earth, thou hast set thy sordid seal on that spotless pearl that was mine one day. Needs must spices from that spot spread, where such riches to rot is run. Blossoms white and blue and red glow there in glory against the sun. There may flower and fruit never fade, where down she slid into earth so dumb. For the blade cannot grow till its grain is dead. No wheat were else to the garner won. From good each good is ever begun. So seemly a seed can never decay. Sweet flowers shall daily spread to the sun from that spotless pearl that was mine one day. To that sweet spot of sad renown I entered to that arbour green in August at the summer's crown, when corn is cut with sickles keen. The earth where once my pearl rolled down was shadowed with herbs full clear and sheen, gilliflower, ginger, and gromelion, and peonies powdered all between. But fair and seemly as was that seam, fairer the fragrance that floated away from the dwelling where gloweth in glory, I ween, that spotless pearl that was mine one day. In that sad spot my hands I wrung, for careful cold my breast that bound. Dinned in my brain a doleful song, though reason soothed the rankling wound. I wept with wayward wits unstrung, my pearl that here lay underground, though Christ's own law sweet comfort sung, my wretched will to woe was bound. I fell upon that flowery ground, such drowsy sense my soul did sway, I slid into a sleeping swoon of that precious pearl that was mine one day. Thence sprang my spirit forth in space, while my body lay in earthbound dream. My ghost is gone in Goddess grace, to venture where strange marvels teem. I wist not where in the world it was, but I found myself where steep cliffs gleam. Towards a forest I turned my face, where rocks so radiant rich were seen, no eye might bear their dazzling beam, or the gleaming glory that from them glent. No blazoned tapestry e'er did seem so fair as this sight that God me sent. High crowned is all that steep hillside, with crystal cliffs so steep of kind, and woods and holts about them bide, with stems as blue of Ind, and beams of burnished silver slide o'er trembling leaf and mossy rind, when gleam of glades did o'er them glide, with shimmering sheen full sharp they shined. A gravel on the ground did grind of precious pearls of Orient. The sun's own sheen was pale and blind before that sight that God me sent. The sight of that hillside so clear taught my sad soul all grief forget. Such flavours fresh of fruits there were, the thought thereof doth stay me yet. Fowls fluttered fearless here and there, of flaming hues both small and great. No zither string or dulcimer could half their jocund mirth repeat. For when those birds their bright wings beat, they sang with such a sweet consent, so gracious glee could no man get as this sweet sight that God me sent. All was so dight in dainty guise, this forest land where fate me set, no mortal tongue might e'er devise the beauteous sights mine eye that met. I wander forth in blissful wise, no bank so big to daunt me yet. The farther in, the fairer rise fresh herb and fruit and floweret, rich fields with paths and hedgerows set, rough banks as fretted gold that brent on either side the rivulet. Such was the sight that God me sent. The glamour of that glorious deep was banks beset with beryls bright, whereby the sweet waves swirl and sweep, with gentle murmur flowing aright. Down in the depths lay stones in heap, as painted windows glow with light, or as twinkling stars when the weary sleep stare from the welkin on winter night. For every pebble that met my sight was meet for royal ornament, and all the water was alight with this sweet sight that God me sent. This glorious sight of down and dale, of water, wood, and noble plain, stirred in me bliss, allayed my bale, soothed my distress, destroyed my pain. Beside those waves that softly steal, I went in bliss with teeming brain. The farther I followed that watery vale, the mightier joy did my heart constrain, as fortune fares when she is fain. Send she solace or sadness sore, the wight on whom her gifts may rain must chance to receive, aye, more and more. More of weal was in that wise than I could tell, though I leisure had, for earthly heart might not suffice to grasp 1/10 of that bliss so glad. I seemed to see sweet Paradise beyond those banks in verdure clad. That brook drew many a quaint device of waters through the golden glade. Beyond, beneath that slanting shade, I hoped to win the farther shore, but the water was deep, I dared not wade, though ever I longed more and more. More and more with anxious care I yearned to see that brook beyond. For if 'twas lovely where I could fare, far lovelier was that farther land. I stayed my steps around to stare, in eager hope some ford to have found. But perils more y-wis there were, the farther I stalked by the strand. Yet never was I so unmanned to turn away from that rich store of fresh delights so close at hand, that moved my mind, aye, more and more. More marvels now my soul beguiled. I saw beyond that merry mere bright crystal cliffs on bright cliffs piled, radiant with rays that have no peer, at which cliff's foot there sat a child, a gracious maid, full debonair. Her dazzling robe was undefiled. I knew her well, I had seen her ere. As glistening gold, pure and sincere, so shone she on that shining shore. Long gazed I eagerly on her there, the longer I knew her more and more. The more I gazed on her fair face, and saw her make so sweet a show, the more I felt such gladdening grace as seldom had been mine ere now. I yearned to call her, but, alas, amazement dealt my heart a blow. To see her in so strange a place, and made my reason bend and bow, when lo! she raised her ivory brow, that such a look of sweetness wore as stung my heart with numbing woe, and ever the longer, the more and more. More than my yearning my dread arose. I bode full still and dared not call. With eyes wide open and mouth full close, I stood as tame as hawk in hall. Ghostly methinks was that purpose, yet I feared lest it might at last befall that the prize might escape me which there I chose, ere I could make it mine withal. That gracious prize, so free from gall, so smooth, so slender, so seemly slight, rising up in array royal, a precious piece with pearls bedight, choicest pearls of royal price, there might man by grace have seen, while fair and fresh as fleur-de-lis she wandered down that limpid stream. All glistening white her tunic is, open at sides and bound between with marguerites I well devise, of purest ray and most serene. Her sleeves were loose and large, I ween, inwrought with double gems so white. Her kirtle was of self-suit sheen, with precious pearls around bedight. A subtle crown yet wore that girl, of marguerites and no other stone, high pinnacled with clear white pearl, with fretted flowerets thereon. Nought else upon her hair's fair curl, which hung in locks her neck adown. Her look was grave as duke or earl, her hue more white than walrus bone. As gold refined her tresses shone, that on her shoulders lay loose and light. Their deep colour yet needed none of the precious pearls that her robe bedight. Bedight and broidered was each hem, at hands, at sides, at overture, with white pearl and none other gem, and burnished white was her vesture. But a wondrous pearl withouten wem in her mid-breast was set so sure, no stone in royal diadem in price with that jewel might measure. Methinks no tongue might e'er endure to tell the glory of that sight, so was it bright and clear and pure, that precious pearl that her breast bedight. Bedight with pearls, that precious piece beyond the stream came down the shore. No gladder man was twixt here and Greece than I, when she came me before. She was dearer to me than aunt or niece, and therefore was my joy the more, when that red maiden proffered me speech, inclining woman-like me before. She doffed her crown of rich treasure, and hailed me with a voice so light, woe was me that I ever was bore to answer that sweet with pearls bedight. End of chapter 1. Chapter 2 of Perle by the Gawain poet. O Perle, quoth I, with pearls bedight, art thou my pearl that I have plained with yearnings through the long lone night, and bitter tears in secret rained? Since earth received thee from my sight, pensive, forlorn, I am for pain, while thou art ever glad and bright in paradise of strife unstrained. What weird hath brought hither the gem of my heart, and set me in dole and great danger? Since we two were sundered and set apart, I have been a joyless jeweller. That jewel then, in gems arrayed, raised her sweet face with eyes so grey, set on her crown with pearls o'erlaid, and soberly thus began to say: "O sir, you have your tale misread, to say your pearl is all away. She is safe in a coffer now," she said, "yea, in this garden gracious and gay, herein to dwell for ever and play, for sin nor mourning come never here. This were thy treasure hold, by my fay, if thou wert a gentle jeweller. But, jeweller gentle, if thou shouldst lose thy joy for a gem that thee was lief, methinks thou art set on a mad purpose, and busied for short-lived matters and brief. For that thou hast lost was but a rose that flowered and faded, blossom and leaf. But now 'tis a pearl of price hid close in a casket free from rust or grief. Yet thou hast called thy fate a thief, which truly hath robbed thee of naught, I swear. Thou blamest the cure of thy mischief, thou art no gentle jeweller. A jewel to me was then this guest, and jewels rare each word she said. "Good sooth," quoth I, "my blissful best, my deep distress thou hast allayed. To be excused I make request, I deemed my pearl was lost and dead. But now she is found, I will hold her fast, and dwell with her ever in wildwood shade, and love the laws that my Lord hath made, who hath me brought to this bliss so near. Were I but with thee in yonder glade, I were a joyful jeweller." "Jeweller," said my pearl so pale, "why mock ye man so mad ye be? 3 words hast thou spoken in that one tale, random and redeless a doom all three. Full light they weigh in reason's scale. Thy speech before thy wit did flee. Thou sayest, thou deemest me in this dale, because with eyen thou mayest me see. Again, thou weenest to come to me by passing beyond this water clear, and thirdly, to dwell in this country, that may no joyful jeweller. I hold the jeweller little to praise, that loveth too well that he seeth with eye. The man I blame as lacking grace, that thinketh our Lord would speak a lie, who surely swore your life to raise, though fate should do your flesh to die. Ye take his words by wayward ways, in loving nought but what ye spy, and that is a point of vain glory, that ill may a righteous man beseem. To trust no tale as true to try, but so far as his reason alone may deem. Deem now thyself, if thou hast told such words as man to God should say. Thou boastest to dwell in this heavenly hold, where thou wert better humbly to pray, and yet he might the boon withhold. Again thou wouldst cross this waterway, but first thy course must lie full cold, and grow compound with clodden clay. For in Eden grove thy flesh went stray, and dreary death must first redeem our father's fault on that far day, ere God o'er this river thy doom can deem. Doomest thou me, quoth I, my sweet, to dolour again? Then am I undone. One moment brief doth fate me cheat with her sweet sight, who must soon be gone. Why must I her both miss and meet? My precious Pearl doth make me moan, and this bootless treasure must gar me greet, when I with dolour shall lose it anon. Now reck I never how lowly and lone I wander afar from the land of my dream, who have lost all part in this pearl mine own. Naught now but endless woe can I deem. Thou deemest naught but dire distress, then said that maid. Why dost thou so? Oft may a man so weep for the less, that for clamour of grief he shall lose the more. Thou oughtest better thyself to bless, and praise aye God in weal and woe. For anger availeth thee not a cress. Spurn not the yoke whereto thou must bow, for though thou dance as any doe, brandish and bray as a froward team, yet since thou canst move neither to nor fro, thou must needs abide what he shall deem. Let God decree, let him ordain, not one foot from his way will he rise. Think not one mite from thy mourning to gain, though thou for sorrow be never blithe. Stint from this strife, let go complain, and seek his bliss full swift and swithe. Thy prayer may at last his pity obtain, that mercy shall thy trespass shrive. His comfort may thy languor lithe, and thy woe be wafted away as a dream. Be thou marred or made, be thou rueful or blithe, all lieth in him, and as he shall deem. Then deemed I to that damsel, forfend the wrath of my dear lord. What though my hasty speech rebel, yet is my heart with ruth remor'd, as weltering water goeth from well. I ever beseech His misericorde. Rebuke me never with words so fell, though I go astray from mine own adored. But grant me kindly your comfort, piteously thinking upon this. Of care and me Thou hast made accord, that once wert cause of all my bliss. My bliss, my bale, Thou hast been both, but much the greater hath been my moan, since Thou wast caught away forsooth. I never wist whither my Pearl was gone, but now that I see her, no more am I loth. For when we parted, we were at one. God forbid we be now wroth. We meet so seldom by stick or by stone. Courteous thy speech, yet am I undone, who am but dust and heaviness. But Christ's mercy, and Mary, and John, these are the ground of all my bliss. In bliss I see thee blithely blent, while I am thus cast down by fate. Thou takest thereon but little tent, though I have oft the things I hate. But now I am here in thy present, I would beseech without debate to hear from thee in sober assent what life thou leadest early and late. For I am full glad that thine estate is worthy worship and weal herewith. This of my joy is the high gate, this is the ground of all my bliss. Now bliss, good sir, may thee betide, answered that child so bright and clear, and welcome here to walk or bide, for now thy speech to me is dear. Masterful mood and lofty pride, I tell thee, are hated full bitterly here. My Master loveth not to chide, for meek are all that dwell him near. And when in his place thou shalt appear, be deep devout in all meekness. My Lord the Lamb loveth aye such cheer, that is the ground of all my bliss. A blissful life, thou sayest, I lead, whereof thou fain wouldst know the stage. Thou mindest well, when thy Pearl was shed, she was full young and tender of age. But my Lord the Lamb, through His Godhead, He took myself to His marriage, crowned me Queen when my bliss He wed, in length of days from age to age. Yea, dowered with all His heritage, His beloved are, I am wholly His. His praise, His price, His lofty stage, are root and ground of all my bliss. Blessed maid, quoth I, may this be true. Displeased not if I speak error. Art thou the Queen of heaven's blue, to whom the world shall do honour? We believe in Mary, from whom grace grew, that bare a bairn of virgin flower. Who might the crown from her renew, but one surpassing her favour? Yet she is so singular, we call her Phoenix of Araby, that bird of form so sweet and pure, like to the Queen of courtesy. Courteous Queen, said that child so bright, kneeling to ground with veiled face, matchless mother and fairest to sight, blessed beginner of every grace. Then rose she up and stood upright, and spake toward me in that place. Sir, many attain to God's own light, but no usurpers bide in this place. All the heavens that Empress hath, and earth and hell are in her fee. From her heritage yet will none her chase, for she is Queen of courtesy. The court of the kingdom of God alive hath this virtue in itself, being each soul that may therein arrive of all the realm is queen or king. And never shall one another deprive, but each is glad of the other's having, and would that his crown were better by 5, if possible were their bettering. But my Lady, of whom the Christ did spring, holdeth the rule over us full high, and none are envious of that thing, for she is Queen of courtesy. By courtesy, as saith Saint Paul, all we are members of Jesu Christ, leg and arm and trunk and pole pertain to the body full true and tryst. Right so is every Christian soul a limb that doth in him subsist. Then look thou bear no hate or gall to mar thy members or betwist. Though jewels gleam on thy finger or wrist, doth thy head then grudge those gems to see? So fare we all with love and list to the King and Queen of courtesy. Courtesy, maiden, I well believe, and charity great be you among. But pardon if my speech doth grieve, methinks thou speakest now full wrong. Thyself in heaven too high dost heave, to make thee a queen that wert so young. What more honour might he achieve that had suffered in this world brave and strong, and lived in penance his whole life long, with bodily pain his bliss to buy? What glory more might to him belong than be crowned by the King in courtesy? That courtesy is too free indeed, if it be sooth that thou dost say. Not 2 brief years with us didst lead, too young to please thy God or pray, nor never knew'st thou pater or creed, and yet made queen on thy first day. I may not trow it, so God me speed, that he would deal so wrong a way. Of countess, damosel, o par ma fay, 'twere fair in heaven to hold the state, or e'en to be lady of less array, but a queen, oh, that is too dear a date. End of chapter 2. Chapter 3 of Perle by the Gawain poet. There is no date of his goodness, said then to me that maiden white, for all is truth that he doth trace, nor may he do nor think but right. As Matthew telleth in your Mass, in soothful gospel of God Almight, from him thou mayst the ensample guess, for he likeneth it to heaven's delight. My realm, he saith, is like on height to a lord that had a rich estate. Of time of year the term was tight, to labour vines was now the date. That date of year these servants knew. The lord full early up he rose, to sort his vine with workers due, and some he found to his purpose. Full soon to good accord they drew, for a penny a day, and forth each goes to writhe and to work in labour true, to prune and pare and bind full close. At noon again the good Lord chose others that idle in market sate. Why stand ye so idle? He said to those. Hath this long day for you no date? Ere date of day are we hither come. Thus they answered with one same thought. We have standen here since rose the sun, and no man biddeth us do right naught. Go into my vine, do that ye can, The master thus these servants taught :" Such hire shall ye have ere the day be run, As a righteous lord to his workmen ought." Then went they into the vine and wrought. And thus all day went the lord his gait, And new men into his vine he brought, Till day was well nigh passed date. At the date of day, at evensong, 1 hour before the sun went down, He saw there idle men full strong, And said to them with sober sound :" Why stand ye so idle this whole day long ?"" Our hire," said they, " is nowhere bound." " Go into my vine, ye yeomen young, And work as ye may ere the sun be down." Soon the world became right brown, The great sun sank, and the hour waxed late. To take their hire he made summoun : The weary day was past its date. The date of day the lord did know, And called to the reeve :" Let pay my meinie, Give them the hire that I them owe ; And further, that none may me repreny, Set them all upon a row, And give to each alike 1 penny. Begin at the last that standeth low, Till to the foremost thou atteny." And then the first began to plainy, And said that they had travailed sore : These but 1 hour did strive and strainy, Us think us ought to take full more. More have we served, us thinketh so, That suffered all the long day's heat, Than these that wrought not houres 2 ; Yet to us thou dost them counterfeit." Said the lord to one that answered so :" Friend, no wrong dost thou here get ; Take that is thine own, and go. Our bargain was at a penny set. Why beginnest thou now to fret ? Was not a penny thy hire of yore ? No man may claim beyond his debt. Why then shouldst thou thus ask for more ? More or less is my free gift, To do with mine own whatso me please ; Or else thine eye to evil is lift, Because I am good and just my pleas." " Thus, then," quoth the lord, " shall I make shift : The last shall have the first release, And the first be last, run he never so swift. For many be called, though few increase : Thus the poorest shall have his ease, Though late he come and little his power. For albeit his toil full early cease, The mercy of God is much the more. More have I of joy and bliss herein, Of ladyship great, and life's full bloom, Than all the wives in the world might win, Seeking their own by righteous doom. Though night was nigh ere I could begin, So late was I to the vineyard come. First of them all my hire did I win, And was paid outright the whole full sum. Yet others had labour more burdensome, Toiling and sweating from hour to hour, Whose time of reward is not yet come, Nor shall be perchance for a whole year more." Then answered I in plainer speech :" Methinks thy tale is unreasonable. God doth His justice clearly teach, Or Holy Writ is but a fable. In Psalter a verse doth plainly preach, That speaketh the point determinable. Thou dealest his full deserts to each. Thou high King, I preterminable. Now, if one have stood the whole day stable, and thou to payment come him before, then the less in work is to take more able, and ever the longer the less the more. Of more or less in God's high realm, quoth that sweet maid, is no debate, for there doth each receive the same, little be his deserving or great, whether the Lord deal honour or shame. He keepeth truly no niggard estate, but lavisheth gifts as water from dam, or as deep sea waves that never abate. Free are all that humbly wait on Him that conquered sin below. What tongue may tell their glory's weight? For the grace of God is great enow. But me thou now wouldst fain checkmate, that I have ill earned my penny here. Thou sayest that I, who came so late, am nothing worthy a prize so dear. But knew'st thou ever a mortal great, be he never so holy in his prayer, that forfeited never by some kind gate some time the meed of heaven clear? And I, the ofter, the older they were, they left and right, and wroughten woe. Mercy and grace then must them steer, for the grace of God is great enow. But enow of grace hath the innocent, new born and signed with Christ's own sign, in water of the sacrament. Then is he brought into the vine. Yet soon his hour of day is spent, Death's mighty arms the babe entwine, that wrought no wrong ere thence he went. Then doth the Lord each hire assign. These took his work, they both therein. Why should he not their labour allow, and pay forthwith in silver fine? For the grace of God is great enow. Enow 'tis known that man complete was wrought at first to bliss perfect. This did our forefather forfeit by that forbidden apple bite. Or we were damned for that meat to die in dole far from delight, and wend forthwith to hell's fierce heat, therein to dwell without respite. But mercy came in hell's despite, rich blood that from the rood did flow, and water. Thus at our worst plight the grace of God waxed great enow. Enow there waxed from out that well blood and water from that broad wound. The blood us bought from bale of hell, and delivered us from death the second. The water is baptism, sooth to tell, that foiled the glaive so grimly ground, and washeth away the guilt so fell, wherein our father Adam was drowned. Now is there not in the whole world round a let to bliss or a cause of woe, but he therefore a cure hath found, for the grace of God is great enow. Grace enow a man may have that sinneth anew, so he truly repent, but with sorrow and sighing he must it crave, and bide such pain as thereto is bent. Yet reason doth for ever save, as right would have it, the innocent. It is a doom God never gave, that ever the guiltless should be shent. The guilty may indeed repent, and come to grace in sin's despite, but who to guile did ne'er consent, in innocence is safe and right. Right thus I know well in this case two sorts of men shall see God's eye. The righteous man shall see His face, the harmless wight shall come him nigh. As saith the psalm in a certain phrase, Lord, who shall climb thine hill so high, or rest within thine holy place? Himself forthwith doth make reply, servants who ne'er did harm or ill, that are of heart both clean and light, in God's high realm shall rest full still. The innocent eye is safe by right. The righteous man may be certain, approach he shall that proper pile, that taketh not his life in vain, nor glavereth his neighbour with no guile. Of this just man saw Solomon plain, how kindly the King on him doth smile. To him he maketh the rough ways plain, and showeth the realm of God awhile. As who saith, Lo, yon lovely isle, thou mayst it win if thou be wight, but scarcely yet without peril. The innocent is aye safe by right. 'Twas said of one, I know well whom, David in Psalter, that never lied, Lord, draw never thy servant to doom, for none living to thee is justified. Wherefore to court, when thou shalt come, where all our causes shall be tried, think on this text, to wrath give room, and leave thy fancied rights aside. So he on rood that bloody died, whose hands the cruel nails did bite, grant thee to pass at that solemn tide by innocence and not by right. He who to read aright doth know may see the book and there be taught how Jesus walked long years ago, and folk their bairns unto him brought, for hap and heal that thence did flow. To touch their children they him besought, his disciples blamed to see them so, and held them back with grudging thought. Then said Jesu, forbid them naught, suffer the children come to me tight, for such was the heavenly kingdom bought. The innocent is aye safe by right. He called on his disciples mild, and said this realm no wight might win, but he come thither right as a child, or else come never more therein, harmless, true, and undefiled, without a spot of soiling sin. When such shall knock upon the bield, swift shall man then the gate unpin. There is the purest bliss to win, that the jeweller sought so early and late, and sold all his goods, both woollen and lin, to buy him a pearl immaculate. This spotless pearl that is bought so dear, and cost the jeweller all his good, is like to the heavenly kingdom clear. So spake the Father of fold and flood, for it is wemless, clean, sincere, and endless round, and blithe of mood, and common to all that righteous were. Lo, even in midst my breast it stood, my Lord the Lamb, who shed his blood. This gem hath here as a peace pledge set. I bid thee forsake this world so rude, and purchase the pearl immaculate. End of chapter 3. Chapter 4 of Perle by the Gawain poet. O spotless pearl, in pearls so pure, that bearest, quoth I, the pearl of price, who formed thee thy fair figure? that wrought thy garment, he was full wise. Thy beauty came never of our nature. Pygmalion painted not those sweet eyes, nor Aristotle, with all his lettrure, could tell no ties that thy proper ties. Thy colour passeth the fleur de lis, thy angel bearing is so sedate. Tell me, bright child, what troth hath its prize in such a pearl immaculate? My spotless Lamb on his high seat, my dear betrothed Lord, quoth she, chose me for his, howe'er unmeet. That was the bridal day for me, when I left your world of salt tears wet, and came to this land of gladsome glee. Come hither to me, my true love sweet, for mote nor spot is none in thee. He gave me might and great beauty, and washed me in blood remediate, and crowned me clear in virginity, and decked me with pearls immaculate. O spotless maid, that bright dost flame in royal array so rich and ripe, what kind of king may be that Lamb that thee would wed unto his wife? Over all others so high thou claim to lead with him so ladily life. So many fair maids in maidenly shame for Christ have lived through storm and strife, and thou, whose course was here so brief, hast pressed them past to so high estate, all by thyself so stout and stiff, a peerless maid and immaculate. Immaculate, quoth that mirthful queen, unblemished I am withouten blot, so far my eye with grace maintain. But peerless queen, oh, that said I not. The Lamb's fair wives in bliss we been, 140,000 I wot, as in the Apocalypse it is seen. Saint John them saw all in a knot on the hill of Zion, that seemly spot. The Apostle saw them in ghostly dream, arrayed to the wedding on that hilltop, the new city of Jerusalem. Of Jerusalem here in speech I spell, if thou wilt know what kind he be, my Lamb, my Lord, my dear jewel, my joy, my bliss, my leman free. Of him did the prophet Esaias tell, piteously of his debonairty, that guiltless soul went down to hell withouten cause of felony. As a sheep to the slaughter led was he, and as lamb before shearer is dumb and tame, so closed he his mouth from each query when Jews him judged in Jerusalem. In Jerusalem was my leman slain, and rent on rood by ruffians bold. All our bale on him hath he ta'en, and readily borne our cares so cold. With buffets was his meek face flame, that was so fair for to behold. For sin he set himself in vain, that never to sin himself had sold. For us bare tortures manifold, and stretched his arms on a rugged beam. As meek as lamb that no plaint told, he suffered for us in Jerusalem. Jerusalem, Jordan, and Galilee, the baptism saw of good Saint John. As spake Esaias, so spake he, when Jesus was to himward gone. He said of him this prophecy: Lo, God's own Lamb, as true as stone, who maketh the world from all trespass free, that every man hath thought or done. himself thought not, nor wrought not none. Yet to himself he did all claim, his generation who reckon can, that died for us in Jerusalem. In Jerusalem thus my leman sweet twice for a lamb was taken there, by true record of each prophet, for his mood so meek and his gentle fare. The third time find we his title meet in the book of Apocalypse written full fair. In midst of the saints on his judgment seat, the apostles saw him bright and clear, reading the book with leaves so square, with 7 great signets set like a hem. And at that sight all quaked for fear, in hell, in earth, and Jerusalem. This Jerusalem lamb had never a stain of aught but white, like pearl alive. No mote nor blemish might him attain, or touch his fleece so rich and rife. This same white hue doth therefore reign throughout each soul that is his wife. Though fresh souls daily join our train, among us cometh not hate nor strife. But each single one we would were 5, the more the merrier, oh so God me bless. In company great our love doth thrive, in honour more, and nevertheless. Less of bliss may none us bring that bear this pearl upon our breast. For we who touch no sinful thing wear here of spotless pearls the crest. Although our courses in clods must cling, while ye cry for ruth withouten rest, we see and know our heavenly King, in his one death our hope is dressed. Our care is cast upon his breast, he feasteth us with his fullness. The bliss of each is fairest and best, and never one's honour is any the less. Lest thou deem my tale but empty sound, hear now St. John's revealed lore. I saw the Lamb that Satan bound stand on the mount as conqueror, with virgins 100,000 around, amid 44,000 more. On all their foreheads written I found the Lamb's high name that his Father bore. A voice I heard like to the roar of waters weltering numberless, or thunder thrown on some pale tower. That voice methinks did sound no less. Loud as that trumpet voice did blaze, and thunderous as its echoes were, a note full new I heard them raise. Joyful and pleasant it was to hear, as harpers harp to their own lays, so sang they that new song full clear. One maiden led those notes of praise, and the rest in choir did follow her. Right before the Lord's high chair, and the 4 beasts that him confess, and the elder men so stayed of cheer, their song they sung nevertheless. Natheless was no man never so wise, for all the crafts that ever he knew, to sing one point of that service, save those sweet choirs the Lamb that sue. For they have been sundered from earthly vice, as first fruits to the Saviour due. To him they are joined in paradise, like to himself in look and hue. For never leasing, nor tale untrue, touched their pure tongue for no distress, that spotless meaning may never remove from that stainless Master nevertheless. Nevertheless, I give thee thank, dear Pearl, though I question thee so close, I should not tempt thy wit so frank, who art to Christ's own chamber y chose. I am but muck and ordure rank, and thou so rich and royal a rose, and bidest here by this blissful bank, where life may never her sweetness lose. Dear heart, that wast once of so simple compose, I would thee ask a thing express. Churlish am I, and uncouth to glose. Let my prayer avail me nevertheless. Nevertheless on thee I call, if thou see that it may be done, as thou art glorious withouten gall, gainsay thou never my rueful boon. Have ye no dwelling in castle wall, no manor where ye may meet at one? Thou speakest of Jerusalem rich royal, where David dear was dight on throne. But it may not be in this forest lone. In Judea is that fair city, God wot, as ye are stainless under the moon. Your dwelling should be withouten spot. This spotless choir, sweet damosel, thousands throng in this great rout. Since then ye are so many to tell, great must be your city, methought. So many a rich and rare jewel, 'twere parlous to let them lie without. Yet see I no strong citadel, though all these banks I spy about. In one place ye dwell, beyond all doubt, to gaze on His glory whom God begot. If thou hast another castle stout, now teach me the way to that merry spot. That spot in Jewry, said then my gem, whereof thy tongue so lately spake, that is the city whereto the Lamb did go to suffer for man's sad sake. To wit, the old Jerusalem, where the old guilt was done to slake, but the new, that straight from God down came, the Apostle John for his theme did take. The Lamb there, clean from blemish black, hath ferried hither this fair float, and as His flock is withouten fleck, so is His dwelling free from spot. Of these two spots the truth now glean. Jerusalem hight each of these, which name He wis no more doth mean than city of God or site of peace. In the first, deep peace was made between mankind and God through the Lamb's decease. In that other is none but peace to glean, that aye shall last without release. That is the bourne whereto we press, whenas our flesh is laid to rot. There glory and bliss shall ever increase to the meany that is withouten spot. Spotless maiden, so meek and mild, then said I to that lovely flower, bring me but once to that noble bield, and let me see thy blissful bower. Sir, said she, whom God shall shield, thou mayst not enter within His tower, but the Holy Lamb to thee will yield a sight thereof through great favour. Without thou shalt see that clean cloister, but inward seest thou never a jot. To stretch in that street thou hast no vigour, but if thou wert clean withouten spot. If I that spot shall now unhide, bend upward to this streamlet's head, and I against thee on this side, until thou see a broad hill spread. Then would I no longer bide, but stole through many a flowery mead, till from a hill that I espied I saw its dazzling radiance shed. Beyond the swirling river bed it shone more radiant than the sun. In Apocalypse is its fashion said, as deviseth it the Apostle John. End of chapter 4. Chapter 5 of Perle by the Gawain poet. Even as it met the Apostle's sight, saw I that city of great renown, the new Jerusalem, royally dight, as it was let from heaven adown. Its bulwarks burned with gold so bright, as burnished glass that gleams around, with noble gems all underpiped, and pillars 12 on their bases bound. On 12 great slabs the Lord did found these walls, and each a precious stone, as standeth written of this fair town in Apocalypse of the Apostle John. As John the stones in writ did name, knew I their name after his tale. Jasper hight the foremost gem, for first foundation nothing frail, gleaming green in the lowest hem. Secondly, sapphire did I hail, Chalcedony then withouten wem. In the third course shone pure and pale, emerald the fourth, so green of scale, and fifth came sweet sardonyx stone. The sixth was ruby, after the tale of Apocalypse by the Apostle John. To these joined John the chrysolite, as seventh gem in fundament, the eighth the beryl, clear and white, next twin-hued topaz excellent, chrysoprase the 10th stone hight, the 11th jacinth rich and quaint, the 12th that burned with mellowest light was amethyst purple with azure blent. The walls that on this basement leant were jasper clear as glass that shone. I knew it by the devisement in Apocalypse of the Apostle John. As John devised, so saw I there. These 12 degrees were steep and wide. The city stood above foursquare, and foursquare was each several side. Through streets of gold, so glassy clear, the jasper walls arose in pride. Within, the dwellings adorned were with stones that earthly gems outvide. 12 furlong space I well descried the measure of this heavenly town, as high, as long, as wide, by the measure of the Apostle John. As wrote the Apostle, so saw we 3 lofty portals every way, 12 gates adorned in symmetry, with fretted gold in rich array, each gate a single margery, a pearl too perfect for decay. Each doth a name, writ fair to see, of Israel's 12 tribes display. Each tribe in order, that is to say, the eldest first was writ thereon. These streets shone with so fair array, they needed neither sun nor moon. Of sun nor moon they had no need. The self-God was their lamp and light. The Lamb their lantern was indeed. By him the borough glistened bright. Through wall and roof my eye could read, that were transparent to the sight. The throne aloft there might ye heed, with all the adornments round bedight, whereof the Apostle John did write. The high God's self sat thereupon. A river ran from that throne outright, was brighter than both sun and moon. Sun nor moon shone never so sweet as the flood that flowed from that throne so fair. Swiftly it swirled through every street, its stainless waves of crystal clear. Kirk was none in that high seat, nor chapel nor temple whatsoe'er. The Almighty was their minster meat, the Lamb their redeeming sacrifice there. The portals never closed were, but ever open, late and soon. There entereth none, I durst well swear, that beareth any spot under moon. The moon hath there no sheen nor might, too spotted she is, of body too grim, and also there is never night. What needeth the moon her course to climb, and to even herself with that noble light that shineth upon the river's brim? The planets are in too poor a plight, and the sun himself is all too dim. Round the river are trees of every clime, that bear 12 fruits of life full soon. 12 times a year is their blossom at prime, and their fruit reneweth at every moon. And under moon so great marvel no fleshly heart might e'er endure, as this which did my sight assail, so wondrous bright in portraiture. I stood as still as dazed quail for marvel of that fair figure, unapt to rest as to travail for ravishment of that gleam so pure. For I dare say with conscience sure, had mortal man abidden that boon, though all wise clerks had him in cure, his life were lost and under moon. Right as the mighty moon doth rise, ere thence the day gleam driveth down, so suddenly in so wondrous wise I was aware of a procession. This noble city of rich emprise was suddenly full without summon of virgins, all in that same guise as was my blessed one 'neath her crown, and crowned were all in the same fashion, arrayed in pearls and weeds of white. On each one's breast was firmly bound that blissful pearl of great delight. With great delight they glided fair on golden ways that glent like glass. 100 thousands I wot there were, and all in suit their livery was. 'Twas hard to choose the gladdest there. The Lamb before did proudly pass, with 7 horns of red gold clear, as precious pearls his garment was. Toward the throne they gently pace in crowds, yet orderly to the sight, and mild as modest maids at mass, so drave they forth with great delight. The glad delight of his appear too much it were for me to tell. To these elder men, when he came near, grovelling at his feet they fell. Legions of angels gathered there, scattering their incense of sweet smell, and all was glory and gladsome cheer, for all sang love to that gay jewel. The strain might strike through earth and hell, that these heavenly powers in their joy indite. For love of the Lamb this praise doth swell. In sooth I caught a great delight. Delight, as I strove this Lamb to devise, hand in hand with marvel went. Best was he, blithest and most to prize, that ever I heard in discourse spent. So snowy white was his outward guise, his look so simple, himself so gent, but a wide wet wound in wondrous wise right to his heart full red was rent. From his white side the blood outsprent. Alas, thought I, who did that spite? Any breast for bale might well have brent, ere he thereto had had delight. Yet his delight none doubted then, though he were hurt and such wound had. For nought was in his semblance seen, so glorious were his looks and glad. I looked among his train so sheen, how bright they were, and nothing sad. Then saw I there my little Queen, whom last I saw within the glade. Lord, merry was the mirth she made among her fellows that were so white. It drove me through that stream to wade for love longing and great delight. Delight drove through me, eye and ear melted to madding my manly mood. When I saw my dear, I would fain be there, though she were held beyond that flood. Nothing, methought, might give me fear, though every hindrance me withstood. Start I but once to cross this mere, I will swim the rest, though it cost my blood. But sudden fell this rebel mood, that stirred me to start in the stream astray, and humbler, calmer thoughts ensued. It was not to my Prince's pay. It paid him not that I should dare those swirling waters to invade in headlong rage or dark despair. Swiftly therefrom was I restayed, for as I stood already there, at that wild thought my dream did fade. Then wakened I in that arbour fair, my head upon that mound was laid, where my sweet Pearl to ground had strayed. I roused me, and fell in great affray, and sighing to myself I said, "Now all be to that Prince's pay. Me paid full ill to be cast forth so suddenly from that fair region, from all those sights of joy and mirth. A heavy longing struck me in swoon, and heavily came my words to birth. 'O Pearl,' quoth I, 'of rich renown, 'tis my sole solace here on earth that thou hast brought me this vision. If it be true that thou mine own, farest for ever in garlands so gay, then well is me in this dim dungeon that thou art to this Prince's pay.' To that Prince's pay I had bent, nor yearned for more than me was given. I held me there in true intent, at bidding of my dear Pearl in heaven. Had grace me drawn to Goddess present, to more of his mysteries had I been driven. But I would man more good hap hent, that should by right upon him cleaven. Therefore my joy too soon was riven, and I cast forth from the realms of day. Lord, mad are they that against thee striven, or pray thee for aught against thy pay. The Prince's yoke is ever light to those who love his peace divine, for I have found him both day and night, a God, a Lord, a friend full fine. Thus mused I, stretched on earth outright, plaining my Pearl with bitter brine, committing to God that jewel bright in Christ's dear blessing and mine, that in the form of bread and wine the priest us showeth every day. Lord, make us servants true of thine, and precious pearls unto thy pay." End of chapter 5. End of Perle by the Gawain poet. Translated by George Coulton.